them with pictures, you won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just go to Babbel.com and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or go to Babbel.com and try it for free. That's Babbel.com.
The Boston Symphony Orchestra presents BSO at Home. While you stay inside, enjoy a curated collection of archived concerts and behind-the-scenes stories from BSO musicians. BSO Homeschool provides lessons for music lovers of all ages. New performances and messages from musicians are added regularly. Enjoy these selections and much more at bso.org/at-home.
Listen, as a hiring manager, I've got to tell you, the best job candidate isn't always the typical candidate. Sometimes they're a grad of life.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience, an ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Sometimes the best candidates aren't the ones you're used to.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Influential conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Rishad Salamat.
Let's move it along. Have a look at the hotel industry, because it, of course, has been ravaged by the global pandemic. Travel, of course, shut down globally. And Marriott International seeing its revenue per available room, or RevPAR, falling 90% last month. But it says there are signs Greater China is starting to bounce back. Our next guest was just promoted to oversee the company's international business outside of North America, and joining us exclusively now is Marriott International Group President Craig Smith. Thank you so much for joining us, Craig. How bad is it?
It's been tough. I've been in the industry 32 years, and this has been the toughest time period. You can see more gray hair since the last time we spoke. But the good news is we're starting to see glimmers of hope, especially in China, South Korea, and also in Australia. And so that's encouraging for us to feel like we're starting to come out of the storm.
So you are seeing some green shoots, though, Craig, if I'm not mistaken. I just mentioned China. Tell us a little bit about that story and other places as well where you perhaps are having a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Yeah, China, the numbers are starting to pick up. And so last month we finished at around 30% occupancy. We've seen good numbers, especially over the May 1st holiday. We've had a lot of travel, places like Hainan, which is kind of the Hawaii of China, so to speak.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings.
Markets, headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on QuickTake by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Good morning from London. I'm Sandra Kilhoff with this Bloomberg Business Flash. Now, we are seeing green on the screen across European equity markets this morning. The Stoxx 600 gaining 0.2%, the FTSE up 0.5%, and the DAX rallying 1% this morning. It follows a similarly green trading day in Asia after Moderna touted positive signs in its initial trial of the coronavirus vaccine. That risk-on mood has sent the Hang Seng rallying 2% in Hong Kong this morning. We're also seeing US equity futures pointing to a higher open. Now, in turn, we have seen a bit of a boost to some of the major bond yields. If we're looking at 10-year bond yields at the moment, up a basis point to negative 46 basis points. We did see Aussie benchmark yields rally 7 basis points earlier. 10-year gilt yields, however, fairly flat at the moment at 26 basis points. I'm keeping an eye on 10-year Treasury yields. Of course, they surged 8 basis points yesterday on the back of that Moderna news, now fairly flat at 72 basis points. Over in the currency markets, the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index a bit weaker, down 0.2%. Similarly so for the yen at 107.5. Sterling is bid up 0.5% at 122. We did see the jobless claim count surge in April, but over the quarter, the unemployment rate did come in better than expected, and that is what is boosting the pound this morning. The euro gaining 0.3% to 109. Do keep an eye on the onshore yuan. It's a bit weaker today due to to a weaker fixing, currently trading at 7.10 this morning. Bitcoin trading down 0.7% at $9,603. Over in the commodity markets, I'm keeping a close eye on WTI, almost up 3% now at $32 a barrel. Of course, the June contract expires today, and that is why we are seeing crude bid. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Leanne Garens with more on what's going on around the world.
Sandra, thank you very much. So-called air bridges could be set up to allow Brits to travel, meaning passengers travelling between countries with a low coronavirus infection rate won't need to quarantine. Blanket measures will be introduced next month, designed to stop a second peak here in the UK. It'll mean all arrivals will need to self-isolate for 2 weeks, but the Transport Secretary has suggested it could be relaxed to focus on higher-risk countries. Italy has registered the lowest number of new virus cases since early March. That comes as the government eased a national lockdown, allowing shops, bars and restaurants to reopen. Daily deaths fell to 99 yesterday, the fewest since early March. And finally, food waste is taking on a new meaning in the pandemic era. Dumped milk, smashed eggs, rotting grapes and buried pigs are all the disturbing images stirring outrage around the world. But the surprising part is we may not be wasting more than normal, but now, rather than being thrown out by consumers, an unprecedented amount of food is getting dumped even before making it to grocery stores. Broken supply chains across the globe are being blamed. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Garens. This is Bloomberg Naira.
Leanne, thank you so much. Now, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron have offered a breakthrough deal to shield the EU from the virus fallout. The German and French plan will need the backing of all 27 members of the Union, but has already won praise from ECB President Christine Lagarde, who's called the programme ambitious and targeted. For more, let's go live to Brussels, where Bloomberg's Maria Tadeo is standing by. Maria, really great to have you with us. Explain to us how this is different to other proposals that have been pretty much outright rejected by some member states who weren't keen on burden sharing.
Yes, so look, what we have here is Germany and France, and this is always key because these are the two most powerful, richest countries, arguably, in Europe at this point, coming together to say we are going to create a new fund that would be able to tap markets to raise about 500 billion euros total, and then this would be managed by the European Commission, and then member states that are badly affected by the coronavirus could tap into it to get funding. What changes here is that this is not just purely based on credit. This is not just based on loans that would have conditionality attached to it. It's not a replay of the 2012 crisis. This is more of a transfer situation, and it's clearly opening the door to member states sharing some of the cost of the corona crisis. Then in terms of the question of how is this different to the previous proposal that was floating around, well, the amount is actually bigger. The last time we checked, this would be around 300 billion. Now we're looking at 500 billion. And what also needs to be kept in mind here is that this is part of the European budget for 2021 until 2027. And that is what Angela Merkel and the Germans are hoping that will bridge the gap between the northern countries and the southern Europeans, saying this is not a Eurobond per se. This is still something that is controlled by the European Commission and already exists in the treaties.
One thing that interests me in this, Maria, is why now? Because it looks to a lot of people as if it's very late to the game, Europe, in all this. France and Germany have taken a long time to get to this point, to create a lot of worry along the way. Is it because they now feel they can get a majority around it amongst the 27?
Yes, or you could also argue, look, the European Commission has to come up with a commission plan in 2 weeks for the budget 2021, 2027. And the French and the Germans felt we have to get in there quick. We have to put something on the table that is going to increase the pressure on von der Leyen, the head of the European Commission, who, by the way, is coming under a lot of pressure and has come under a lot of scrutiny for the way she's handled this, to say, work with this and let's try to get a majority around it. And then secondly, you could also argue that, yes, Angela Merkel already pointed that she had spoken to several European leaders, and the reaction from Spain and Italy, as you can imagine, yesterday was very welcoming to the plan. Both Giuseppe Conte and the Spanish Prime Minister saying that this is moving in the direction that they wanted, away from loans into grants. The question is, what is the Netherlands and Austria going to do?
Yeah, and also another question is, what does this mean for Lagarde, Maria, who said that QE will continue despite the German court ruling?
Yes, and this is also key this morning because there had been criticism that the fact that European leaders were not able to agree on a plan was creating too much stress on the European Central Bank, that the limits were being tested too much because of the inaction of politicians. Now, some of the interesting takes that I've seen this morning actually suggest that Angela Merkel and Macron coming together with this does remove pressure from Christine Lagarde, especially after the German court said that perhaps QE was illegal under the German constitution. And it does show that perhaps the European leaders now really understand that it's not just about the ECB. You're putting too much pressure on one institution.
All right, Maria, thank you so much. Maria Tadeo there live on the line from Brussels, giving us a sense of what this potential deal could actually mean, Nara.
Yeah, and yesterday we saw BTP yields drop some 20 basis points. They slide another 7.5 in today's session, and we also see some green on the screen in equity markets 25 minutes into the open. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says the Fed is prepared to use the full range of tools at its disposal to support the economy. In prepared remarks to be delivered this morning via video link to the Senate Banking Committee, Powell says the Fed expects to keep interest rates near zero until the economy is back on track. We shopped for more than just toilet paper and booze during the coronavirus lockdown. We were also buying things for the house. Analysts expect Home Depot to report a nearly 4% gain in first quarter same-store sales later today. Walmart also opens its books today. It, too, is expected to report a big gain in first quarter sales, 7.8%, excluding fuel. That would be the most in about 18 years. Stocks resumed trading, looking to extend yesterday's big gains. The market surged on promising test results from an experimental coronavirus vaccine. Moderna, which makes the vaccine, jumped nearly 20%. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
Bloomberg and Eaton Vance are proud to present a Boston Pop salute to our heroes. This Independence Day, the orchestra's 4th of July tradition continues. The program will feature guest artists, highlights from past fireworks displays, new music paying tribute to the heroes of the current health crisis, and honoring the memories of those we have lost. Watch and listen Saturday, July 4th, starting at 8 Eastern, exclusively on Bloomberg Television and right here on Bloomberg Radio.
If you're having a business dispute, you know time is money. The longer your case proceeds, the more your case can cost. So speed up your resolution with the American Arbitration Association. Arbitration with the American Arbitration Association is faster. In fact, the median time frame for an American Arbitration Association B2B arbitration to be awarded is nearly 16 months faster than the U.S. courts. ADR.org. Resolve faster.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. To stay alert, you must remain at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit your contact with other people. If you have to go out, keep your distance from others, 2 meters apart where possible. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone. And becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
What do you do to be an everyday superhero, like Mary? So I know it's tempting to pour used cooking oil straight down the sink, but I spoke to the local council and they said the best way to get rid of oil or fat is to collect it, once it's cooled down, of course, in a used container. And then you can scoop it out and put it in the bin.
Cooking oils and fats block thousands of pipes every year. Save our sewers, rivers and seas by putting them in the bin, where they belong. Visit thameswater.co.uk/bin it. Together, we can care for the environment.
Whoa, just got a Moonpig reminder that it's your birthday Saturday.
Yeah, I set that up.
Oh, do you know what? I forget one time. Okay, I'm in the app.
Oh, the romantic card section.
I'm full of surprises. Now, what rhymes with babe?
How about just uploading a nice pic? No, wait, I'm not ready.
Hey, I love you from every angle. Now for the gifts. Oh, and flowers.
Heartfelt can happen anywhere with moonpig.com. Download the app now.
Broadcasting live to London on DAB digital radio, to New York, Bloomberg 1130, to Washington DC, Bloomberg 99.1, to Boston, Bloomberg 106.1, to San Francisco, Bloomberg 960, and around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
8:30 a.m. in London, 9:30 if you're listening in Paris, Frankfurt or Brussels. Good morning, everyone. I'm Naira Chehich.
And I'm Roger Hearing, and you're listening to Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Roger, we're 30 minutes into the equity market open here in Europe, and that risk-on rally didn't last long at all. The Stock 600 given up its gains for now, looking dead flat. In fact, edging into the red by 0.1% after gains of more than 4% yesterday. Looking across regional equity benchmarks, you're looking perhaps at a slight mixed picture here. The FTSE 100 up 0.3%, the CAC 40 off by 0.1%, the DAX up 0.3%, the IBEX and FTSE MIB in the red by at least 0.3%. Yesterday, we saw the biggest jump in 6 weeks for US stocks, the S&P 500 jumping by more than 3%. Was it Powell? Was it Moderna? Whatever it was, it looks like the session today could be a little bit more muted. S&P, NASDAQ and Dow futures all higher by about 0.25 percentage point to 0.3%. We also saw a reaction in the bond markets that matched the rally in risk assets yesterday. The 10-year Treasury yield jumping 7 basis points. We saw some curve steepening. The 10-year Treasury yield now dips 1.5 basis points towards a 71 handle. The 10-year Bund yield is steady. We see the 10-year BTP yield slide another 7 basis points after dropping almost 20 yesterday on this breakthrough deal or proposal for a recovery fund by France and Germany to fight the effect of coronavirus. The 10-year gilt yield down by 1 basis point. Of course, we've had jobless claims numbers from the UK as well that did not look pretty at all. Taking a look at FX, you're seeing a little bit of dollar weakness after some weakness of 0.7% in the Bloomberg Dollar Index yesterday. The pound and the Kiwi outperform, and oil, the WTI June contract expires today. WTI up 3.8%, $33.03 a barrel. Brent above 35, up 1.5%.
Right, let's move on to some of today's top stories. A significant step's been taken in the EU's response to the COVID crisis. Bloomberg's Anya Nussbaum has the details.
France and Germany are proposing a 500 billion euro recovery fund, borrowed on the financial markets, which would lead to grants that will help the worst-hit countries and sectors to go through this crisis. While some countries wanted a larger sum, this is a first step towards common debt in the EU, and it's a huge win for Macron. Now, the tricky part could be convincing the rest of Europe, particularly so-called northern countries like Austria, Sweden, or the Netherlands. In Paris, Anya Nussbaum, Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
The UK has set out its tariffs plan for global trade when it fully leaves the EU at the end of this year. It will cut import duties on many products like dishwashers, freezers and Christmas trees. Tariffs will remain on agricultural products like beef, lamb and poultry, plus a 10% tariff on cars. The UK said 60% of its trade will come in tariff-free under its plan, compared to 47% currently. I feel like I'd rather get my meat than my Christmas trees, Roger.
Well, that shows your priorities, Naira. I mean, other people may differ. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump's escalating his threats against the World Health Organization. He's unhappy over its handling of the virus pandemic, and he says he may permanently cut US funding for the WHO if it doesn't make sweeping reforms. Trump's concerned that the agency is too close to China.
And in the global race to find a vaccine, a drug from Moderna is showing promise. There are signs it can create an immune response to fend off the coronavirus. The results are just a sample from a small initial study, so they should be viewed with caution. But the company says the data couldn't have been better. Moderna is raising $1.3 billion to fund manufacturing of its experimental coronavirus vaccine. The company priced its offering at $76 per share. And Goldman said this vaccine hit the mark, Roger.
Right, well, yes, the vaccine may or may not, but of course that's going to have a huge effect on the global economy going forward. Everyone acknowledges that. And let's hear now from the largest investor in distressed securities worldwide, because he says the Fed has great power, but its ammunition is not limitless. Now, he was speaking exclusively to Bloomberg's Eric Schatzke. He's Howard Marks, co-founder and co-chairman of Oaktree Capital. And he discussed how the central bank's bond buying program has affected the debt market.
We were a very active buyer in the public debt markets in mid-March. And then on the 23rd or 4th of March, the government and Fed started to talk about what their program would be. And around the 26th, they announced it. And that drove up prices in the public credit markets to the point where we're not buying as aggressively at this point in time. So, it has changed the market from what it would have been if they hadn't gotten involved. And that has had impact for us. And I think that's inescapable.
Do you think investment opportunities are likely to improve from this point forward, where you will see the opportunity, the possibility of making elevated returns again? Or are we sort of here now and here for the time being?
Well, you tell me, will the Fed decide to be the buyer on every transaction? In which case prices don't ever have to go down. In theory, Yogi Berra said, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there is. But let's talk about the future in a serious way. So I mentioned that the rating agencies believe, and the investment banks, that between 15 and 25 or so % of the high yield bonds outstanding will default. That's roughly $400 billion. That's a lot to buy. In April, I believe there were 19 defaults or bankruptcies, and I believe that's the greatest in history, greatest single month in history. And we're just getting going. The defaults and bankruptcies largely occur when companies run out of cash. And the fact that 19 occurred in the first full month of the crisis, and that the crisis has months more to run, tells me there'll be more defaults and bankruptcy. And there, as I mentioned before, there are large, highly levered companies and investment vehicles that the government and Fed rescue program is not likely to reach and take care of. So we believe there'll be plenty. And it boggles the mind to think that we're going to have a crisis of the magnitude of this one and not have fallout. And typically, we have been able to profit from that fallout.
So is that to say that while Oaktree was buying aggressively in March, less so now, it may yet become a more aggressive buyer in the months ahead?
Absolutely. I mean, they, like they say in a football game, we take what they give us. And the greater the dislocation, usually the greater the bargains, which means the greater our buying. We think that there's a substantial opportunity ahead.
Howard Marks, their co-founder and co-chairman of Oaktree Capital, talking about what opportunities there may be in this market, Nera.
Yeah, and for the latest in global news now, let's go to Bloomberg's Leanne Gerrans. Hi, Leanne.
Good morning, Naira, and thank you. Brazil is now the world's fastest growing coronavirus hotspot. The largest South American nation has accounted for 13% of all new cases in the past week. It has now overtaken the UK with the third most coronavirus cases, behind only Russia and the US. It comes amid a political crisis, leaving the nation without a comprehensive strategy to slow the spread of the pandemic. Now, scientists from the Korean Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have found that patients who tested positive for coronavirus weeks after recovering aren't capable of transmitting it. From Seoul, Bloomberg's Peter Pei has more.
The country's CDC studied 285 survivors who had tested positive for the virus after the illness had apparently been resolved. But the so-called repositive patients weren't found to have spread any lingering infections. The findings are a positive sign for regions, as the latest study suggests that those who have recovered present no risk of spreading the virus when physical distancing measures are relaxed. In Seoul, Peter Pei, Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Right, let's go to Europe, where life is slowly returning to the new normal. Spain is pushing forward with the lifting of its lockdown. People are now allowed to sit outside restaurants or gather at home with as many as 10 people. But Madrid and Barcelona remain in a more restrictive phase. Bloomberg's Jeanette Newman reports.
The easing comes as the number of people who have died in Spain from the coronavirus continues to fall. The government said on Monday that 59 people had died in the last 24 hours. That's the lowest number of fatalities in more than 2 months. Also on Monday, the governor of Spain's central bank said the economy is likely to shrink this year between 9.5 to 12.4%. In Madrid, Jeanette Newman, Bloomberg, Daybreak, Europe.
President Donald Trump says he is taking hydroxychloroquine. That's the anti-malaria drug he's promoted as a treatment to combat the coronavirus. It comes despite warnings that it can cause serious side effects, including heart rhythm problems. Trump says he is taking the drug as a precaution. The president's doctor says he and Trump concluded the benefits outweigh the risks. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Gerrans. This is Bloomberg. Roger.
Leanne, have you ever taken hydroxychloroquine?
So I obviously grew up in Africa, and I lived in a malaria area, and I think I've taken them all. I think I've taken a lot of anti-malaria drugs. Can't remember, but I'm pretty sure hydroxychloroquine was one of them, because I could say the name and I remembered it.
No, it's certainly around. But there was another one called Lariam, which I took, and I think you took, didn't Nera, as well?
I absolutely did. I was warned that it could cause all kinds of psychological issues and hallucinations and things, but I have to say I didn't have any side effects, but I've since been told that it's been taken off the market, so that's interesting. But with Trump, what I also found interesting was just the fact he's talked about being a self-admitted germaphobe, has theatrically not shaken hands with patients, very different to Boris Johnson's approach in all this. And up next, we'll talk more about the markets. 40 minutes into the open, European equities, I should say, have given up their gains. This is Bloomberg.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Who's in your corner? At Commonwealth Financial Network, our advisors would say we are. Our supportive environment lets you be true to yourself, and our culture of accountability means we don't just ask for your feedback. We act on it, so we can deliver the solutions you need to enrich the lives of your clients and build the business you've always dreamed of. Ready to discover the difference? Call Commonwealth at 866-462-3638 or visit commonwealth.com. Member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Imagine being denied.
Switch on Acorn TV, the brand new streaming service featuring world-class TV from Britain and beyond. Watch exclusive premieres like the colourful crime drama Queens of Mystery.
Once you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
And fan favourites like Inspector George Gently.
I'm just an old copper doing his job.
If you love drama with a little mystery thrown in, enjoy 30 days free with code ACORN30. Then just $4.99 a month. No adverts, no contract, cancel anytime. Join online today at acorn.tv. Did you know that players of People's Postcode Lottery have raised over £500 million for charities and good causes? They've also won £63 million in prizes so far this year, and it could be your postcode next. Visit postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 21st of May to play in the June draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16+. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
If you want to do something important, work in adult social care.
I'm Greg and I lead the team at a residential care home. Supporting people to live life to the fullest. It's an amazing job to have.
We are recruiting in your local area. We need you now, and they need you always. Care for others. Make a difference. Today. Search adult social care jobs now.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
TSB believe in people helping people. So if you need a repayment holiday on your TSB mortgage, loan or credit card, get in touch and TSB will do what they can to help. To apply, go to tsb.co.uk. Interest will continue to apply and you will pay more interest overall. Terms and conditions apply.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for a favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
round the bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike. Just to go over the first couple of picks, Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn. Not all heroes wear capes, but most wear tights. Keep up with everything happening in the wild world of pro wrestling with a podcast on TuneIn. For expert analysis of the latest wrestling storylines, turn on the WWE podcast.
Big Steve-able edition.
Or listen to the Steve Austin Show for no-holds-barred conversations with wrestling's biggest personalities.
Because now on the show, everybody's kind of the same size, but as soon as I saw you, it's been...
For these and more, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling.
And breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on QuickTake by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Good morning from London. I'm Sandra Kilhoff with this Bloomberg Business Flash. Now, we are seeing European stocks give up some of their earlier gains, with the Stock 600 now down 0.2% and the CAC 40 slipping 0.4. The DAX is flat in Frankfurt after rallying as much as 1% earlier. The FTSE up just 0.2. It follows a risk-on day in Asian markets where the Hang Seng is currently up 2%, and US futures are still pointing slightly higher. Now, that risk-on mood initially came after Moderna touted positive signs in its initial trial of the coronavirus vaccine, as well as the news that we have seen Germany and France agree to a bailout plan when it comes to rescuing the EU bloc from the economic impact of the coronavirus. That, in turn, is kind of boosting the euro this morning, currently up 0.2% at 109. We are seeing sterling bid up 0.4 at 122. This after the unemployment rate for the first quarter came in better than expected. Jobless claims did surge in April, but like I said, the unemployment rate better than expected, and that's boosting the pound. We are seeing the Bloomberg dollar Spot index a bit weaker, down 0.2, while the yen is a bit weaker at 107.4 this morning. Over in the bond markets, 10-year Treasury yield down 2 basis points after surging 8 basis points yesterday, now trading at 70 basis points. 10-year bund yields down a basis point at negative 48. 10-year gilt yields down 2 basis points at 24 basis points. Finally, in the commodity markets, we are seeing gold slightly higher at $1,733 a troy ounce after slipping yesterday. WTI gaining more than 3% at $32 a barrel on this last day of the June WTI contract. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Len Garens with more on what's going on around the world.
Sandra, thank you very much. India's coronavirus infections have surpassed the 100,000 mark this morning and are escalating at the fastest pace in Asia. That comes as Prime Minister Narendra Modi further relaxed the country's nationwide lockdown to boost economic activities. India is now among the nations worst hit, with a 28% increase in cases since last week, according to Bloomberg's coronavirus tracker. Now in Europe, Italy has registered the lowest number of new virus cases since early March. That comes as the government eased a nationwide lockdown, allowing shops, bars and restaurants to reopen. Daily deaths fell to 99 yesterday, the fewest since early March. And finally, a record number of Londoners hired bicycles last weekend after the UK started to relax the lockdown. Rentals on Saturday and Sunday reached 97,502. That's according to the Transport for London. The capital's Mayor Sadiq Khan is planning to expand pavements and create temporary cycle lanes to help people avoid public transport where they could transmit coronavirus. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Gerrans. This is Bloomberg Naira.
Yeah, Leanne, just got to make sure you properly wipe those bikes down before you start using them, though.
I always thought that. I always walk past them and I think, is this a hot spot? But they do take them away every evening and wash and clean them and then bring them back to the loading bays, if I'm correct. But I still think disinfectant when you go there. Get your hand sanitizer out.
I have to say, I'm not a cyclist. Are you, Roger? I'm terrified. Well, it would be a death wish by me if I cycled around the streets in London.
Yes, you being a cyclist might mean higher risk for many people. But I do cycle actually, and you know, try and do it at least once a day if I can. But I don't know. It's you just feel slightly ridiculous wearing that silly helmet and all that as well.
Oh, Roger, always so superficial.
Take a picture for us, Roger, and put it on Twitter, because all our listeners out there need to see you on your bike with your helmet on.
We need to see Roger with his beard at home with Percy.
Yes.
Well, possibly that.
Leanne Gerrans with the World News. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the UK data from this morning. And the number of Britons seeking jobless benefits spiked the most on record last month. Jobless claims rose 856,500 to more than 2 million in April. That's according to the Office for National Statistics. The figures include some people who are still working but have experienced a loss of earnings. What the ONS data did show as well, though, was that the UK labour market was fairly robust going into the coronavirus crisis. Joining us now down the line is HSBC senior economist Liz Martins. Liz, great to have you on the show with us. So the number looks painful in terms of jobless claims. The unemployment rate wasn't quite as bad as the survey expected. But how quickly can the UK labour market actually recover post-coronavirus, given that it was in quite good shape going into the crisis?
Morning, Nora. I think you're right. The March numbers are actually quite encouraging in the sense that the UK, had a good start to the year, but I also think that absolutely everything has changed since then, so we probably can't extrapolate too much from that. It's all about what the economy looks like when the lockdown eases and when businesses reopen, and workers who are currently furloughed are able to return to work, whether their employers can then keep them on, because the risk is that actually we return to a much weaker economy, and people think, well, maybe I don't need to reactivate my gym subscription, I don't need to go back out to the bars and restaurants I used to visit, and then all the people working in those institutions who may have been furloughed until now, they're unfurloughed, but there really isn't the demand for their services, and then unemployment, risks spiking at that point. The numbers out today show us that not all employers have registered people for the furlough scheme. Actually, that 865,000 increase in jobless claims suggests that a large number of firms have actually said, you know what, we just can't keep these people on, so we've let people go. So, I think it was a good start to the year, but I don't feel that we can take that much encouragement from that, given the scale of the economic changes that have happened since then.
And drilling down into the granularity of it, I mean, a lot of it obviously is SMEs, a lot of it's service companies. We're thinking about pubs and restaurants, but much wider than that. I mean, that has to be the most vulnerable area of the economy, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. These are firms that are operating with thin margins at the best of times, and the longer this lockdown goes on, the harder it will be for them to survive. And of course, a lot of people want to get started again. There's safety considerations as well, but the later that restart comes, and the weaker the demand is when it does come, the riskier it is for people who work in that sector. And it is a big employer in the UK. We are a services economy, we're a consumption economy, and it will make all the difference. But I suppose the good thing is that hopefully the relaxation of the restrictions will come through in the summertime, when people are keen to get out and about, and maybe that will help.
Yeah. So on that, Liz, as we start to ease lockdown and perhaps that gains momentum through the summer, how sustained a hit to consumer demand do you expect, even when lockdown is lifted a little more forcefully?
I think, look, consumption isn't going to go quite back to where it was, and it totally depends on this job situation. So if there's a whole load of job losses and a whole load of fears, then it's not going to come back. And there's been survey evidence suggesting that actually people are quite fearful to go back, unless there's a vaccine that makes people feel their chances of becoming ill are much, much lower, then I think people will remain fearful. So there will be a permanent hit. On the other hand, though, if you have remained employed through this lockdown and you've spent a lot less than you usually do because you've been sitting at home all this time, then actually your bank balance should be in reasonably good shape. You should have been forced to save some money, and maybe that supports a little bit of consumption. And as well as that, we might get some good discounting from the shops. When they reopen and the restaurants, they're trying to attract the customers back in. There might be some discounting there, and that might support a revival of our former habits.
Well, there's talking about people going back onto the beaches and maybe going back into the water. Of course, the shark appears famously when you do, and that shark, I think, is the name Brexit tattooed on it. We have seen it coming back into vision now, with the really dire prospects of any agreement being reached before time runs out. And of course, this morning we had a list of what the tariffs are in terms of what's going to potentially for the trade in the future. I mean, what do you think of those tariff lists?
Yeah, so it's actually a similar plan to what we had for the full no-deal Brexit when we were talking about that ahead of the agreement of the withdrawal agreement. So it's similar to that. What it says is, in the event that no deal is done, is the UK will charge zero on all of our imports, which is great because it keeps goods coming into the UK and means that there isn't a big block on supply chains and we won't run out of toilet paper again and all of that stuff. But there's no reason why the EU would reciprocate on that. So suddenly, goods are coming into the UK on zero tariffs, but the UK goods going into the EU face tariffs in a no-deal scenario, and that's where we would really, I think, suffer. It's a big hit to our competitiveness.
Liz, traders are betting the UK is going to have negative interest rates by year end. Do you think it will?
Well, no, that's not our forecast, but I will say there have been 3 comments from members of the BOE's MPC in the space of a week, which said never say never. So I don't think that they intend to. I don't think that it's not our current forecast, but I think they are opening the door just a crack in case they maybe need to do more further down the line. Because after all, we haven't really got to we don't know how this economic crisis ends. It could be that we all get back to normal in the summer and everything's fine and they don't need to do anything more. But it could be that, as I say, unemployment spikes and things just get worse. Despite the relaxation of lockdown, and the Bank of England feels we do need to do more. And they've done a lot of QE already. They've blown out their own balance sheet, and rates are already at 0.1. And the next possible next step is negative rates.
HSBC senior economist Liz Martins, great to have you with us. Thank you so much. And we're an hour just about into the equity market open here in Europe. The Stock 600 now in the red, down 0.4%. This is Bloomberg.
Just this wall and that one to do, Dave, and then we're done. Whoop! Oh, no!
Hello, Steve the Sparky.
Pass us that roof tile, Chris.
Yep, sure. I'll be fun. Oh, no.
Saved by the gutter! Built to rough it with contractors. Samsung rugged devices. Easy to use, hard to break. Explore the Samsung rugged range.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
TSB believe in people helping people. So if you need a repayment holiday on your TSB mortgage, loan or credit card, get in touch and TSB will do what they can to help. To apply, go to tsb.co.uk. Interest will continue to apply and you will pay more interest overall. Terms and conditions apply.
Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
We've all shut down our economies. How fast can we reopen them, and how much can we reopen them?
The bad news is for the euro, and I do not believe in the L-shaped recovery. Even with the economies partially reopening, it's not going to lead to a return to normality for quite a long time.
The big question for Europe is what are we going to do with tourism?
This is the biggest single challenge this country has faced since the war.
Bloomberg Daybreak Europe on Bloomberg Radio.
A very good morning from London. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And a good morning from the Bloomberg Bureau in Berlin. I'm Matt Miller. You're listening to Daybreak Europe on London DAB Digital Radio.
So
most likely.
Yes.
Most likely. You could be listening to it any number of ways, frankly. I don't know why I say that every day.
Yeah.
You could be listening on the internet. You could be listening on Sirius XM.
On the terminal.
I guess I'm just plugging DAB.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we hope you're listening wherever you are and wide awake because the rally here in Europe is reversing today. We saw that big jump yesterday, didn't we, particularly in the Xetra DAX. Well, this morning the US stock 600 is down 0.4%. Matt, we've got 2 million people claiming jobless benefits last month alone. That's in April in the UK. And then also this 14-day quarantine idea for visitors coming into the UK. Remember, Heathrow is a major airline hub in Europe. That seems to be in tatters. Both the airports and the airlines have been complaining about it. Now they're talking about having air corridors so that you wouldn't have to impose quarantine on some people coming from countries that are less affected. Bit of a mess.
I feel like the British want to quarantine. I mean, this is the one country that just kind of refuses to come out of lockdown. England wants to stay home. Am I wrong about that?
I think there is definitely a split. I think probably a lot of ordinary workers, you know, the teaching unions and the transport workers, the people who are on the front line don't want to increase their risk of getting the virus. But I think the government is fundamentally worried about the impact on the economy. And there is a bit of a push by business, perhaps, to get back to work. But yeah, there's that tension there. But isn't that everywhere around the world?
No, I don't know. You know, I just feel like I encounter a lot more small and medium-sized businesses in the UK that are insisting on, almost as a patriotic duty, staying home and not working, even, you know, though they're losing money. Whereas, at least I know here in Germany and you know, in the countries surrounding us, businesses want to open up. They want to get back, and people are sick of staying home. They want to get out there, not just to the parks and on little hikes, but to restaurants and into bars.
Yeah, and that is a huge part of the UK economy too. Hospitality is a big deal here. You know, the West End is closed. Yeah, there is. But there is that split. You're right. There is a split between whether people want to go back or not. Look, just in the rest of the markets, though, of course, because the other thing that I think, you know, has boosted optimism is this idea of perhaps a vaccine. Still very early stages, but Moderna really helped stocks yesterday. It doesn't seem to be doing that particularly particularly at the moment, even though we had a strong session in Asia, the topics up 1.8%. We had 2% gains for the Kospi and so on. And then actually looking at US futures at the moment, they're now negative for the S&P 500, although we've been kind of bouncing between gains and losses on the S&P 500. And then there's also, more talk about negative interest rates, money markets now betting on the Bank of England rates being below zero by the end of the year. And we have the big German-French deal about more help for Europe. So that has also been a big factor in the bond markets. At the moment, Italian BTPs trade at 1.64%, so dropping 3 basis points after we saw a big slide in Italian BTPs of some 20 basis points yesterday.
The German-French deal, I think, is really interesting because until now, Germany had really balked at any kind of shared debt. And the idea of this 500 billion euro plan, of course, it still has to be ratified. But the idea is that this will be money borrowed by the European Union and then essentially passed out to countries that need it. So, Germany gives its good name to get the loan, and then the money goes to the periphery. Let's ask Daniel Lakai what he thinks about it. He's the CIO at Tressis, an economist and an author, most recently of the book Freedom or Equality. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us this morning. What do you think about this plan? Has Germany finally caved in here? Is this what Europe needed? How does it strike you?
Hi, good morning, Matt. Yes, I think it's somewhere in between. I think that Germany has agreed to a less strict scheme with France that will be targeted to sectors and regions that have been most hit by the COVID-19 crisis. However, when you read the text of the agreement, you can see that it is bound by the treaty and that it includes a specific mention to strict structural reforms being implemented by governments and sound economic policy. So, to a certain extent, it is definitely a more benign for the most hit regions scheme than the ESM or others. But it is definitely not, I would say, money for nothing.
Okay, so not money for nothing, and yes, you're right, attached to, for example, the greening of the economy in Europe. Do you think that it changes the perception for investors who, have long shunned a lot of European investments? Does it change the equation at all?
I think it's challenging, and we need to see the details of the agreement and definitely the details of the sectors that will be benefited by it. Because I come back, for example, to the experience of the Juncker program, which was massive and did not generate a level of foreign direct investment growth in the European Union that was initially expected. Many of these programs tend to be seen by most institutional investors as very politically directed. So we need to see the details. I want to be obviously hopeful that this is a good opportunity for the European Union to reconduct its growth pattern, but I think it's very, very early stages. But I think at least it is a step in the right direction of putting together the desires of the different member states to something that is actually tangible and realistic, instead of either the expectation that everybody is going to be receiving free money with no conditionality, or the expectation of others that there should be absolutely no solidarity.
Daniel Lakai reminding us that there's no free lunch. Daniel, you're an economist, obviously, at heart. We hear that. But you are also the chief investment officer at Tressis, at this hedge fund. What do you think about, we've seen this little rally, 18-ish%, I think, from the lows here in Europe. In the U.S. on stocks, on the S&P 500, 30%, 32, 33% gain from the lows. Is it priced in? Is everything priced in now, or do you think that we have a second wave to worry about? Do you think that there's more room to run? How do you see it as an investor?
that as an investor, I would maintain a certain level of caution, particularly on those sectors that we tend to call value. I think that the action of central banks, which has been extremely decisive, very low rates, added to the massive stimulus packages approved by governments, are putting in investors' minds that we need to forget 2020 and that 2021 is what we need to be focused on. But as an investor, I want to remind people that 2019 were already years of weakening growth. So the recovery is going to be challenging. As such, what we like to have in the portfolio is dollar-based assets, exposed more to technology, exposed more to healthcare and utilities, and exposed less to, for example, autos, oils, etc., banks. And what we like is also to have a little bit of gold in the portfolio. I think that it continues to be attractive. And diversified in terms of fixed income, we like to have investment-grade bonds. So, funnily enough, I think that what we've learned from this crisis is that it pays to be invested in those sectors that are expensive because they deserve it, rather than to go overweight the cheap for a reason value trap.
All right, Daniel, thanks so much for joining us on television today and on radio. I'll tell viewers who know him from his last book, Escape from the Central Bank Trap, that he has a new book out. It's called Freedom or Equality, The Key to Prosperity Through Social Capitalism.
Great stuff. I have to look at that. Right, let's take you to world and national news, because Bloomberg's Leanne Gaines is standing by with all the latest. Good morning.
Good morning, Caroline, and thank you. Let's start here in the UK, where pressure is mounting on Prime Minister Boris Johnson to be more open about his coronavirus strategy. A panel of MPs is calling on the government to publish the scientific advice behind Britain's response to the pandemic. It comes amid criticism that Numbers 10's relaxation of the lockdown has led to confusion on what people should and shouldn't be doing. Now, President Donald Trump is escalating his threats against the World Health Organization. He's unhappy over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic and says he may permanently cut U.S. funding if it doesn't make sweeping reforms. Trump is concerned the agency is far too close to China. Yesterday, President Xi gave the WHO his full backing. Let's turn to the U.S. now, where President Donald Trump says he is taking hydroxychloroquine.
A lot of good things have come out about the hydroxy. A lot of good things have come out. And you'd be surprised at how many people are taking it, especially the frontline workers, before you catch it. I happen to be taking it. Hydroxychloroquine? I'm taking it. Hydroxychloroquine.
That's the anti-malaria drug he's promoted as a treatment to combat coronavirus. It comes despite warnings that it can cause serious side effects, including heart rhythm problems. Trump says he is taking the drug as a precaution. The president's doctor says they together concluded the benefits far outweigh the risks. Scientists from South Korea's disease control and prevention have found that patients who tested positive for coronavirus weeks after recovering aren't capable of transmitting it again. From Seoul, Bloomberg's Peter Pei has more.
The country's CDC studied 285 survivors who had tested positive for the virus after the illness had apparently been resolved. But the so-called re-positive patients weren't found to have spread any lingering infections. The findings are a positive sign for regions, as the latest study suggests that those who have recovered present no risk of spreading the virus when physical distancing measures are relaxed. In Seoul, Peter Pei, Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Gerrans. This is Bloomberg. Caroline.
Thanks so much, Leanne Gerrans. And now let's get some of the sports news and how football's trying to get back after the coronavirus. Here's William Essler.
Premier League players are set to return to training this afternoon. It will be done in small groups with social distancing measures in place. Clubs hope to have the results of coronavirus tests carried out over the weekend back around lunchtime before the players take to the pitch. Celtic boss Neil Lennon is targeting a record-breaking 10th consecutive Scottish Premiership title next season. They were named champions again yesterday when the current campaign was brought to an early conclusion due to coronavirus. And cricket's governing body has recommended a change of rules to ban the use of saliva to shine the ball. The ICC Cricket Committee wants the change implemented to protect players from the coronavirus. Traditionally, saliva has been used to help smooth one side of the ball to help it swing.
It's weird to do sports from an English perspective, because I feel like in the only sports that are being played right now, even my mom in Ohio is excited about the Bundesliga, about German soccer, which is...
I think, all England wants to happen is for the cricket to get back, but no spitting on the ball.
Yeah, spitting on the ball is as old as, I think, the ball. It's been done forever in baseball as well. This is Bloomberg.
President of the Jewish Communal Fund, Zoya Raines, and her husband, Robert Friedman, Jewish activists and philanthropists, talk about why they chose the Jewish Communal Fund for their charitable giving.
As very busy working parents, we wanted to focus more on the charity part of it and wanted to focus more on our children and less on the administration.
The Jewish Communal Fund is one of the oldest and largest donor-advised funds, but at the same time, they're totally up-to-date and have state-of-the-art systems for us to access and manage our contributions online. The assets in our fund at the JCF grow tax-free, so we can generate more charitable dollars to support the charities that we care about most.
Let JCF minimize your taxes and maximize your charitable giving.
We're incredibly passionate about our charity, and the JCF allows us to focus more on the charity and less on the administration and the headaches.
For more information about Jewish Communal Fund, visit our website at jcfny.org and request a new fund kit.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Influential conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Rishad Salamat.
Let's bring in Carsten Breitfeld, Faraday Futures CEO. What do you have in your technology that others do not? Do you have a USP, a unique selling point?
Yes, we have basically two groups or two sets of technology. One is, and I'm really proud that I can say this, we have the most advanced electric powertrain technology which you can get in the market when it comes to power density of the motors, for example, and more than that, the most advanced battery technology. Our battery packs 130 kilowatt hours in a car, which is good for a range up to 400 miles. It's a flooded cell technology, which allows you to charge extremely fast with 200 kilowatt and more. And that's a technology which is not available in the market right now. And the other area, and this is why this is a strength of Faraday, combining the traditional auto world with internet and consumer electronics world, we have a technology set we call IAI, which is Internet and Artificial Intelligence. This is a whole set of communication modules, high-speed communication modules, screens, very powerful in-car computers to have a complete internet and consumer electronics technology in the car.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings.
Markets, headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app and on QuickTake by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg's World Headquarters in New York City, I'm Anne-Marie Horderm with this Bloomberg Radio Business Flash. What started as a risk-on day today has quickly evaporated. European equities are in the red across all the major indices. The stock 600 is down more than 0.6%. Only insurance companies are higher. We are led lower by auto, construction, and basic resources. Also, U.S. equity futures have turned red as well this morning. Across European bonds this morning, we are seeing some gains. So yields are down, especially in the periphery in Spain and Portugal. On those 10-year notes, we're down more than 0.8%. In foreign exchange this morning, also the British pound is up 0.3%, 1.22 against the US dollar. The UK announced plans for £30 billion in tariff cuts after Brexit. And this morning, oil still holding on to gains this morning. The WTI crude NYMEX up more than 2%, $32.60. What a month makes. Remember, this time last month, that was the contract that was expiring, and it brought negative prices. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Leanne Garens with more on what's going on around the world. Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning, Anne-Marie, and thank you. Brazil is now the world's fastest growing coronavirus hotspot. The South American nation has accounted for 13% of all new cases in the past week. It has now overtaken the UK with the third most coronavirus cases, behind only Russia and the US. It comes amid a political crisis, leaving the nation without a comprehensive strategy to slow the spread of the pandemic. So-called air bridges could be set up to allow Brits to travel, meaning passengers travelling between countries with a low coronavirus infection rate won't need to quarantine. Blanket measures will be introduced next month, designed to stop a second peak here in the UK. It'll mean all arrivals will need to self-isolate for 2 weeks, but the Transport Secretary has suggested it could be relaxed to focus on higher-risk countries. And finally, Italy has registered the lowest number of new virus cases since early March. That comes as the government eased a nationwide lockdown, allowing shops, bars and restaurants to reopen. Daily deaths fell to 99 yesterday, the fewest since early March. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Garens. This is Bloomberg. Caroline.
Thank you so much, Leanne Garens, with all the world news. And now let's talk about something here in the UK, mounting pressure on the government about how they will tackle the fiscal damage left behind by the coronavirus crisis. The Institute for Public Policy Research has found that the UK can ramp up spending to fight the pandemic without risking unsustainable levels of debt. Obviously, one reason, because borrowing is currently so cheap. And they argue that it boosts the case for the government to invest now in economic growth rather than to return to austerity. Well, I'm pleased to say that joining us this morning is IPPR's Executive Director, Caris Roberts. Thank you so much for joining us, Caris. Look, your main message seems to be no new austerity. How can that really be avoided, though, given that we may well be going into starting the deepest recession in 3 centuries?
So our modelling looks at what's likely to happen to the public debt. And in fact, we're more greeny about that than the OBR are, than the Bank of England are. We think that those scenarios which suggest that the economy is going to bounce back are actually too optimistic. So we think that a 3-month lockdown could result in 120% of public debt to GDP. And that, obviously, those are scary figures. But what we also know at the moment is that the cost of borrowing to government is extremely low. So even if we doubled the UK's debt, we would still be paying less to service that as a share of tax than almost any time since 1950. Yeah. So what we know is that there isn't any urgent need to reduce the deficit. Obviously, in time, we will need to do that. But at the moment, that's not extremely urgent. And in fact, any talk of austerity is likely to be extremely counterproductive in terms of allowing the economy to recover.
We can't do austerity into a recession, right? That would, I mean, the idea from the first Baron Keynes is that you've got to spend your way out of a recession, isn't it?
Precisely. So this is economics 101. And yeah, I think too often the public debate can be quite obscured. It can be quite opaque. And one of the things that we've done today actually is to release an interactive tool that allows people to almost do their own macro modelling, to play around with the figures and see how the forecast changes. Because at the moment there's a real danger that we might repeat what happened last time. And some people say that austerity is the only way, even though economists are screaming that it's the wrong answer, but that it could take hold as the accepted answer on that.
Yeah, and this is sort of some backbench Tory MPs in that regard. But look, in the longer term then, once we're over the recession, you admit that we are going to have to tackle borrowing. How should we pay for borrowing then in the longer term? I mean, surely taxation is inevitable here in the UK.
So we know that the most important thing that will get us out of debt is to grow our way out of it. And that's how we've handled huge deficits in the past through most of the 20th century by having sustained growth that can grow the tax base. But we do also think that there will be a need to look at taxation, yes. So in terms of cutting public spending, I think the UK has cut back to the bare bones. I think it would be a huge mistake to repeat any of that. In terms of taxation, there are some anomalies in the system. There are ways to make it more efficient, more fair, while raising revenue. And in time, not immediately, but in time, those will need to be on the table. So things like wealth taxes, capital gains taxes. There are some big anomalies in terms of who pays tax and how much, that will need to be reassessed.
Just in terms of time frame, when might that happen from your perspective?
I think, and we're doing some work on this at the moment, but I think the most important thing will be that the recovery is properly underway, that we're seeing a sustained recovery in terms of jobs and in terms of growth. But it's also some taxes we can probably consider sooner.
But your whole message is why worry, right? I mean, why are we worried about paying? The whole message that you're delivering is it won't cost anything to borrow this money, right?
That's certainly for now, but it's all about timing. So later down the line, in the medium term and long term, and we don't yet know when that point will be. There's a huge amount of uncertainty around all of these forecasts. But in time, we will need to think about that, not just for in terms of revenue raising, but also to make the tax system more efficient and more fair.
To go back to Keynes, we'll have to think about that in the long run, won't we? IPPR's Executive Director, Karis Roberts, there talking about their prescription for the UK to ramp up spending. This is Bloomberg.
With a Bloomberg Business of Sports report, I'm Michael Barr. President Donald Trump said that the return of professional sports was essential for the psyche of our nation as it rebounds from the coronavirus pandemic. The president promised robust virus testing for athletes and spectators as he called into the broadcast of a charity golf event. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell was asked when Americans can feel comfortable in attending sports and entertainment events.
Certainly no sooner than next season. Generally, public sporting events, public concerts and things like that, those will be among the last things that can be resumed.
Powell made his comments on CBS's 60 Minutes. A game-worn pair of Nike sneakers from Michael Jordan's glory days sold for a record $560,000, almost 4 times the initial estimate for the autographed shoes. Sotheby's earlier estimated they would fetch as much as $150,000. And that is a Bloomberg Business of Sports report. I'm Michael Barr.
Are you interested in a challenging and exciting career? One where you can be part of solving complex challenges across industries and geographies? Bloomberg's ever-expanding technology, data, news, and media services foster innovation, empower clients, and offer nearly limitless opportunities for career growth. Visit Bloomberg.com/careers today to view our current job opportunities. Bloomberg LP is an equal opportunity employer. The address once again is Bloomberg.com/careers.
IBKR is the professional's gateway to the world's markets. IBKR offers commissions starting at $0 for U.S.-listed stocks and ETFs, enhanced price execution via IB Smart Routing, and access to our powerful trader workstation, web, mobile, and API trading platforms. In addition, our clients enjoy the lowest cost access to stocks, options, futures, Forex, fixed income, and more on over 125 markets in 31 countries. Learn more or open an IBKR integrated investment account at IBKR.com.
Not completing high school is more of a soul.
I can find and fund my car, from a Mini to a Jaguar.
Feel good car buying from findandfundmycar.com is the place where you can find quality used cars from trusted dealers rated by you, and where you can fund your car with finance to fit your budget. It's feel good car buying, all in one place.
Shouldn't be a carry on, choose findandfundmycar.com.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. Staying alert means you must stay at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit contact with others. Keep your distance if you go out. And wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Get your daily dose of NFL shop talk with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Start your morning off right with Around the NFL.
Injured, depleted roster into the playoffs, and I didn't think they belonged in the playoffs.
I think overall, though, it was a great divisional round weekend because you got the first one.
Run into the end zone with the Move the Sticks podcast.
We had a fun little Zoom cocktail hour last night.
Oh, yeah.
What a star-studded affair. Greg, you were there for the earlier part, but it really popped off a little later on. We had Zach Goldman.
And dive deep into the sidelines with the Peter King podcast.
On the occasion of his 50th birthday, come down and record a little bit of retrospective on the life and times of Brett Lorenzo Favre.
That sounds like a bestseller.
It sounds like a precursor to a funeral. That's what it is.
I wasn't thinking that.
Explore these and more hard-hitting NFL podcasts right here on TuneIn.
With millions of podcasts dropping new episodes all the time, how do you keep up with all your favorites? TuneIn makes it easy. Simply head to the home screen and find your new episode section to see the latest additions.
The NHL is always on the ice with these awesome hockey podcasts on TuneIn. Get your goal with the Spittin' Chicklets podcast.
Brian Yandel, Keith Yandel, thanks for coming on. What's going on?
Nothing much. Glad to be here. You guys got some nice digs here.
We heard you took Southwest 2-stop flight to get out here.
Yeah, well, I just...
Carve up the ice with NHL at the rink.
The other day I wrote a story. Artemi Panarin, Semyon Varlamov, Sergei Bobrovsky, they all helped arrange for the purchase of N95 masks to benefit hospitals in their respective markets. This is another one of those positive stories you're seeing.
Or create your own power play with Locked On NHL.
All these teams invested future assets to take a run at the Stanley Cup right now. Like, all of those teams would have a real serious gripe, like trading these multiple first-round picks to make a run at a cup. You're right.
Discover these and more NHL podcasts right here on TuneIn.
Live to London on DAB Digital Radio, to New York, Bloomberg 1130, to Washington DC, Bloomberg 99.1, to Boston, Bloomberg 106.1, to San Francisco, Bloomberg 960, and around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Good morning from the Berlin Bureau. I'm Matt Miller. You're listening to Daybreak Europe.
And I'm Caroline Hepker here in London. Warm welcome to the programme. So let's give you a check of the markets then, as we do every 15 minutes on Bloomberg Radio. So
really actually gone south.
Yeah, it has, down 0.7% for the US stock 600, FTSE 100 dropping 0.4%, although the broader FTSE 250 is actually pretty much the only one in the green in Europe, up 0.5%. Xetra DAX down 0.4%. Yes, so the gains that we saw yesterday, 5.7% higher for the Xetra DAX, on optimism around more help for European countries, that deal between France and Germany, obviously, that needs to get the support of the rest of Europe.
And just an hour ago, we were looking at 1% plus gains, right? So it's just, it's not, to me, it's, everything I'm looking at is red. I just look at on the WEI screen, the EMEI portion. And an hour ago, everything there was green.
So loss of confidence from what?
That's the question. Why were we up 1% and change, happy about a vaccine, excited about the Merkel-Macron agreement, and then all of a sudden, is it the currency moves because the dollar was so weak against the pound and the euro this morning? I don't know.
Yeah, well, and the euro is strengthening 1/10% now. Pound also up 0.3%. The dollar's weaker 0.1%. Yeah, well, we did sort of see similar. Earlier in the morning, the fluctuation in US futures too were down 0.4%, but we had been really a lot higher. I think up about 0.7% on the futures, several hours ago. So yeah, I think perhaps market struggling for direction, trying to decide what to hold on to. Having said that, crude oil is positive and has remained there pretty much all morning. 1.8% higher for WTI crude futures, $32.40 the barrel. And just in terms of yields, Italian BTPs in a new place really today, 1.64%, so down 3 basis points today. German yields at negative 48 basis points. So those are the markets.
Cool. All right. Now, with that in mind, we were talking about Merkel and Macron. They agreed yesterday to a 500 billion euro fund that would make grants to the hardest hit member states. It still needs to be signed off by the rest of the bloc, but the idea is if Germany agrees to shared borrowing and then, is willing to grant it to Italy, that's a huge step. Anna Edwards and I spoke exclusively to Margareta Vestager about this. She is the European Commission Executive Vice President. We asked her how progressive this plan really is.
I find it's a very good step. It's very good. It's very strong that France and Germany comes together, and to do that at this timing. Because it's important that we recover fast and that we recover strong. The thing is, of course, that this is one step, and there are 27 members that has to come together. So, of course, I hope that others will be included in the conversation about how to make a European recovery, because we will recover stronger if we do that together.
Now, are you confident that countries that have maybe been less keen in the past, the Netherlands, maybe even Denmark, will say yes to this kind of plan?
Well, I don't think that you can just expect that people say yes, of course. This is a union of mutual respect and involvement. So, of course, it's very important that other members, the rest of the members of the union, are as involved. Also on substance, because the important thing is, of course, that now, while we pursue our strategic goals of greening the European continent and using digital technology as far as possible, that all member states are on board also on the substance of this plan.
It could look like Germany is now agreeing to go along with a shared debt plan in order to take some of the focus away from its own state aid. We've gotten complaints, for example, from Michael O'Leary, who's been whose voices complaints very often about the state aid, for example, to Lufthansa. Are you worried about the maybe anti-competitive nature of the amount of state aid that Germany is giving out to companies?
Well, the worry here is the unleveling of the playing field, because what Germany can do is completely justified. They cannot overcompensate. They do what is needed. But many other member states do not have the same opportunities, capabilities. And this is, of course, why it's so important to have a strong European approach as well. So what the individual member states can do, and Germany in particular, is being matched and complemented with what we do together. Because the European value chain, they are so integrated. That, of course, makes sure that also German state aid sort of makes sure that the entire ecosystem benefits from it. But it also requires that we do something together, because otherwise we will not have the fast recovery that will save jobs as we would want to.
So this fund that's got the support of Macron and Merkel, then, Commissioner, do you think that this will help to redress the balance as to which companies will be saved?
Well, I think it's a very important step, because if we can make a plan so that substance and funding complements each other, then we can push very far. And of the essence here is, of course, speed. Because now we see that from a problem of liquidity also comes problems of solvency. And when you open for recapitalization within each member state, well, of course, it is important that there is also a European response and that we get it fast. Because we should save valuable, well-driven, viable companies There were so many of them before this crisis. They were not in trouble for any reasons, except, of course, for this very, very fundamental one, that we've had to lock down our societies and our economies because of the COVID-19. And I think it is important that we show all these businesses, all the people working there, people who have invested decades of their life in building a business, that there is a European response in order for them to be able to do what they want to do business.
And that was Margarita Vestager, European Commission Executive Vice President, speaking exclusively to us this morning on Bloomberg.
Yeah, that was a really great interview. I mean, the big question is, with all this government support for businesses and individuals, will there be a cliff edge at some point? If some of these companies turn out not to be viable at some point in the future, I think that's going to be a big question. It certainly is already a question here in the UK. Let's get over to Bloomberg's Leanne Gerrans, who's got all the
hang on, are you suggesting that a national carrier might turn out not to be viable sometime in the future?
Well, I mean, that and many, many other businesses, right? How can you survive 6 months or 3 months or however long of doing absolutely zero business? And we may all be doing different things after.
How can you survive decades of costs overrunning your income? I mean, that's just how the airline model works, right?
Yes. True.
The answer is bailouts, and now we'll see them again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get over to Bloomberg's Leanne Gerrans. Not bailouts, but all the latest when it comes to coronavirus news. Good morning.
Caroline, good morning and thank you. So let's start here in the UK, where pressure is mounting on Prime Minister Boris Johnson to be more open about his coronavirus strategy. A panel of MPs is calling on the government to publish the scientific advice behind Britain's response to the pandemic. It comes amid criticism that the government's relaxation of the lockdown has led to confusion on what people should and shouldn't be doing. And also out this morning, Britain's tariffs plan for global trade when it fully leaves the EU at the end of the year. The Department for International Trade announced it will cut import duties on many products like dishwashers, freezers and even Christmas trees. But tariffs will remain on agricultural products like beef, lamb and poultry, plus a 10% tariff on cars. Now, President Donald Trump is escalating his threats against the World Health Organization. He's unhappy over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic and says he may permanently cut U.S. funding if it doesn't make sweeping reforms. Trump is concerned the agency is far too close to China. Meanwhile, yesterday, President Xi gave the World Health Organization his full backing.
The virus does not respect borders. We must strengthen international cooperation. Mankind is a community with a shared future. Solidarity and cooperation is our most powerful weapon for defeating the virus.
That was Chinese President Xi, heard through a translator there. He also said China will provide $2 billion over 2 years to support the vaccine surge. And finally, shops, restaurants and hair salons are reopening all over Italy after a 2-month lockdown. But Bloomberg's Flavia Rotondi explains why not every business is confident in opening.
Some small businesses have decided to keep the doors closed as they claim the government has failed to support them and consumer demand is expected to stay weak for a while. Italy reported the lowest number of new coronavirus cases since early March, with daily fatalities falling to 99 from 145 on Sunday. In Rome, Flavia Rotondi, Bloomberg Daybreak Euro.
Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Gerrans. This is Bloomberg. Caroline.
Thank you so much, Leanne, with the world news. Now, coming up next on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, we'll speak to John Bilton, head of global multi-asset strategy at JP Morgan Asset Management. Talking to him about why he's more bullish on equities than bonds and what he makes of the plans for this European fiscal stimulus. This is Bloomberg.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
When the market is unpredictable, BAM gives you certainty.
In the face of volatility and illiquidity, BAM-insured municipal bonds deliver default protection, value preservation, and a durable AA rating from S&P. BAM's insurance protects against everything that causes a default, including natural disasters, financial fraud, pension issues, and economic disruption, like the one we're experiencing right now. BAM. Build America Mutual. Ask your broker about BAM-insured municipal bonds.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
What's the true value of your...
Just this wall and that one to do, Dave, and then we're done. Whoop! Oh, no!
Hello, Steve the Sparky.
Pass us that roof tile, Chris.
Yep, sure. I'll be fun. Oh, no.
Saved by the gutter.
Built to rough it with contractors. Samsung Rugged devices. Easy to use, hard to break. Explore the Samsung Rugged range.
Did you know that players of People's Postcode Lottery have raised over £500 million for charities and good causes? They've also won £63 million in prizes so far this year, and it could be your postcode next. Visit postcodelottery.co.uk/radio before midnight on the 21st of May to play in the June draws. PPL manage lotteries on behalf of good causes. 16 plus. Conditions apply. Play responsibly.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. To stay alert, you must remain at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit your contact with other people. If you have to go out, keep your distance from others. 2 meters apart where possible. Continue to wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
Get your cook on with Asda. With Butcher Selection quarter pounder beef burgers, get a 4-pack for just £2.28. And salmon fillets, get a 2-pack for only £2.97. So dinner's always a winner. At Asda, we're committed to low prices every day on the quality products you need. Asda. Selected stores and lines subject to availability.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone. And becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
Right now at the Halifax, wherever we're working from, we're all working together to be there for you.
So our customers can apply for a payment holiday on mortgages, loans or credit cards.
And because we want you to stay home and stay safe,
we've created step-by-step guides to help you set up online and mobile banking,
which is safer and easier than you may think.
But for those that really need to see us in person, we're keeping as many branches open as possible.
So however you need us at the Halifax,
we're here to help.
Terms and conditions apply. For more information, go to halifax.co.uk.
Want to relive the glory of college football?
Balls over a man, into the end zone,
Come explore TuneIn's classic game replay collection to hear ESPN's complete coverage of the 2019 New Year's 6 bowl games. Don't miss your chance to re-experience the Rose Bowl, the 2020 National Championship, featuring Clemson and LSU.
There's going to be 2 champions on the field tomorrow night. There's going to be 1 team hold up the trophy.
To the 5! Touchdown! Search classic game replays to listen for free.
24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on QuickTake by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg's headquarters, or from Bloomberg here in London, I'm Caroline Hepker with this Bloomberg Radio Business Flash. So the markets at the moment down 0.4% for the US stock 600. So the positivity that we had around the possibility of a vaccine, although early stages from Moderna, that boosted equities yesterday on Wall Street and across Europe, seems to have faded the markets this morning. FTSE 100 also down by 0.1%. The IBEX, IBEX 35 dropping 1.1% at the moment. The only thing in Europe that's in the green is the FTSE 250, which gains 0.8%. The pound also strengthening 0.3%, 122.37. As for the bond markets this morning, we trade at 1.63% for BTPs for Italy, so dropping 4 basis points after we saw a 20 basis point drop for Italian BTPs yesterday. German yields at negative 47 basis points and 70 basis points for US benchmark yields on the 10-year. Also, the other positive note, WTI crude futures up by 2.2% at the moment, trading at $32.52. Brent crude at $34.98. This after the comments from Jerome Powell on the longevity, on how long it will take for the US economy to recover. Lastly, I'll give you a check of the dollar, which is weak at 0.1% this hour. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Leanne Gerrans with more on what's going on around the world.
Caroline, thank you. Brazil is now the world's fastest growing coronavirus hotspot. The South American nation has accounted for 13% of all new cases in the past week. It has now overtaken the UK with the third most coronavirus cases, behind only Russia and the US. It comes amid a political crisis, leaving the nation without a comprehensive strategy to slow the spread of the pandemic. President Donald Trump says he is taking hydroxychloroquine. That's the anti-malaria drug he's promoted as a treatment to combat coronavirus. It comes despite warnings that it can cause serious side effects, including heart rhythm problems. Trump says he's taking the drug as a precaution. And finally, a record number of Londoners hired bicycles last weekend after the UK started to relax its lockdown. Rentals on Saturday and Sunday reached 97,502. That's according to the Transport for London. The capital's Mayor Sadiq Khan is planning to expand pavements and create temporary cycle lanes to help people avoid public transport where they could transmit coronavirus. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on QuickTake by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Gerrans. This is Bloomberg Matt.
You know, what's interesting is, and John Farrow pointed this out on Twitter a little earlier, President Trump told a group at the White House that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo asked him to fire the department's watchdog, the Inspector General, which is like a bombshell, right, that you would expect Democrats to grab instantly. And then he dropped the bomb that he's taking hydroxychloroquine. And now that's the only thing the news cares about, is that he's taking hydroxychloroquine. Nobody remembers that he told basically the world, I don't know if it was by accident or he just doesn't care, that Secretary of State Pompeo asked him to fire the Inspector General.
Oversight. And Nancy Pelosi has commented on hydroxychloroquine this morning. And we have seen that. Right, so they have sniped back at him on that. But obviously the Mike Pompeo story has gone a little bit unnoticed, as you do say.
Exactly. And maybe that's just all part of, that's just a genius operator there at work. In any case, let's get over to the U.S. right now. Nathan Hager is getting ready for Daybreak Americas. Nathan, what do you think? These are two huge stories today.
Absolutely. The Inspector General firing, even some Republicans have argued, follows a pattern of the president casting aspersions on independent watchdogs in the government. And it just so happens this morning we have Brown University Political Science Chair Wendy Schiller on with us this morning.
Cool.
We'll ask her not only about the firing of the Inspectors General, but about the hydroxychloroquine story and all else that's happening in Washington, not the least of which now, late last night, the president threatened to cut off all funding, make the temporary cut to World Health Organization funding permanent, ratcheting up tensions potentially between the U.S. and China. That could be something that markets are taking a look at this morning as we're starting to see a bit of a pullback from that strong rally yesterday.
China is, of course, very much behind the WHO.
Right. So we'll talk with her about that as well. And in terms of the market impact, we're going to be speaking with James Bevan, Chief Investment Officer at CCLA, to take a look at where markets could go from here, not just on the promise of a vaccine, but with rising U.S.-China tensions in the foreground. Also waiting to hear from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. They're going to be on Capitol Hill later this morning updating the Senate Banking Committee about how coronavirus stimulus is being spent. So we're going to preview that as well, along with earnings from Walmart, one of the few essential businesses during the pandemic. Lots for me and Karen Moscow to get to this morning on Bloomberg Daybreak. Hope you'll join us for it.
You've got a ton going on. Yeah. You've got the Senate hearing. You've got James Bevan. I'll be interested to see why he thinks markets went from risk on to risk off all of a sudden in the last hour. You've got Wendy Schiller, and there's so much political. I mean, the main story probably is the firing of the inspector general, but the hydroxychloroquine is also a fun story. And if it turns out that it really works, very cool stuff. All right, looking forward to Daybreak America's Nathan Hager and Karen Moscow up next. If you're listening on Sirius XM, if you're tuned in on London DAB Digital, you'll hear Surveillance.
Let's talk a bit about the markets now, shall we? Because of the risk-on sentiment that we sort of saw yesterday and partially this morning was in part thanks to Moderna yesterday saying that its coronavirus vaccine trial showed positive signs. At the same time, Germany and France have come up with this breakthrough deal to try to help shield the EU from the virus fallout. For more, let's bring in John Bilton, who is head of Global Multi-Asset Strategy at JP Morgan Asset Management. Great to speak to you, John. So what do you think is actually perhaps calming the markets now or leading to less risk on? Is it that US-China clash, or is it simply, the pandemic is still so present?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. I think one of the things that we should sort of take a step back and consider is the fact that we're now in a position where other issues are starting to be calibrated by the market. Quite understandably, the market's had a myopic focus over the past couple of months on virus stats. Every economist I know has suddenly become overnight an epidemiologist. Yet really what we're beginning to get to now is actually a ability for the market to start to think about and calibrate other factors, whether it be some of the geopolitical question marks, whether it be issues around employment data, some of the housing data that we've seen. And I think what's happening is that we're beginning to see the market wake up to the fact that, there's both good news and bad news out there. And that's what the market does over the long term. It calibrates for that. And so, there was some great news yesterday with regard to some chinks of light in terms of vaccine trials and what have you. But I think also, don't get away from the fact that some of the very higher frequency data, beginning to look a little bit stronger. We're seeing some bottoming in some of those data, particularly out of Asia. We had some comforting news as we've seen data series come in from places like Australia, and certainly we're getting the lockdown easing up in places around Europe. But at the same time, we're far from out of the woods. We don't know what the long-run effect on the employment market is likely to be. We saw some very poor data from the UK this morning. So markets are having to adjust to this in real time. I don't think it's any one single factor, but I think what we need to recognise is markets are still... investors are generally very cautious at the moment, which means that when we get good news, markets are getting good, strong up days. I think, though, what we should take away as being encouraging is that some of the internal moves in the market yesterday were rather interesting. It was the smaller cap, it was the more value-type stocks that were beginning to put in a bit of a move here, rather than things being led by the big growth, high-quality names. And as a result, that's actually something we need to see happen for the market to really get a bit more breadth in order that it can build perhaps for a better outlook over the intermediate term.
How important is the Merkel-Macron agreement? Because EU stocks have been trading at a big discount to U.S. stocks. I think even though we've seen this little rally in both, the discount in terms of valuations is bigger than ever.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I think the issue that we've seen is that Europe for a long time has not been in as fortunate a place with regard to sector mix and policy, perhaps, as the US has been. And that's thinking about the entire last expansion, which was very heavily tech-led. I think as we look forward, some of the things that Europe are doing now are truly groundbreaking. The fact that we're seeing some fiscal coordination, the use of the economic heft that the European Union and the Eurozone in particular have, I think is something which commentators and analysts have been crying out for some time. And it's clearly a statement, I think, that demonstrates that the EU is stronger in its internals than some skeptics like to suggest. I mean, certainly, every time we see a wobble on the policy front from a nation like Italy or others, you'll sometimes see that people will call into question the strength of the euro and the durability of it. And I think this is a big deal. It's a game changer. 500 billion euros, possibly with private sector involvement, that could extend that further, which means I think that we're beginning to see the EU take a great deal more of a long-sighted view on the fiscal integrity.
John Bilton, thank you so much for joining us from JP Morgan Asset Management. This is Bloomberg.
Are you looking for senior care for your mom or dad? But
picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Where will 2020 take you? Somewhere where people care. About each other. About our planet. About creating a better world for everyone. And becoming the best versions of yourselves. Join a community of like-minded individuals at the University of Winchester. Make sure to accept your offer by the UCAS deadline and visit our website to find out more. See the bigger picture. Be the difference. Go to winchester.ac.uk.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. Staying alert means you must stay at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit contact with others. Keep your distance if you go out. And wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
We're all in uncharted territory looking for ways to support our communities. At Dell Technologies, we're making sure small businesses have the right tech solutions. Dell Technologies advisors are here for you, helping small businesses stay connected and productive while working remotely with Windows 10 Pro and Microsoft Teams. We're standing by you every step of the way. Call us today on 0800 169 1745. That's 0800 169 1745.
4 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
Live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studios, this is Bloomberg Daybreak for Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Coming up this hour.
U.S. futures dropped following yesterday's 3% rally on Wall Street.
Jerome Powell testifies before Congress this morning. He says the Fed will use its full range of tools to support the economy.
And President Trump threatens to cut off permanent funding to the World Health Organization.
Mayor de Blasio says New York City could reopen in June. Plus, Western New York State begins reopening today. I'm Michael Barr. More ahead.
I'm John Stashower. In sports, Governor Cuomo campaigns for the return of sports in New York, and a former Met wants to come out of retirement and join his old team.
That's all straight ahead on Bloomberg Daybreak. On Bloomberg 1130 New York, Bloomberg 99.1 Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 106.1 Boston, Bloomberg 960 San Francisco, Sirius XM 119, and around the world on BloombergRadio.com and via the Bloomberg Business app.
Good morning, I'm Karen Moscow.
And I'm Nathan Hager. Bloomberg Daybreak is brought to you by SEI. Crises bring out the best in people, character, community, partnership. Together as one, SEI. Go to SEIC.com/IMS.
And European stocks turn lower. U.S. stock index futures lower as well. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day. On Bloomberg, it is 5:01 on Wall Street. S&P futures down 6 points this morning. Dow futures down 36. NASDAQ futures up 4. The DAX in Germany is down 0.2%. CAC in Paris down 0.4%. And the FTSE 100 little changed. Nikkei 225 in Japan up 1.5%. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong jumped 1.9%. The 10-year Treasury is up 7/32, yield 0.70%. The yield on the 2-year 0.17%. NYMEX crude oil up 2.2% or 70 cents at $32.52 a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.2% or $3.70 at $17.38 an ounce. The euro 1.0952 against the dollar. The yen is at 107.50. Nathan.
Karen, U.S. stocks are coming off their best gain in almost 6 weeks on optimism over a possible vaccine to combat the coronavirus. We get more live from Bloomberg's John Tucker. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Nathan. The S&P 500 surged 3.2% after Moderna said its vaccine test yielded signs it can create an immune system response in the body. We spoke with the CEO, Stefan Bancel.
We are finalizing the protocol for the phase 3, which is the last clinical study before approval, which we are hoping to start in July.
Moderna plans to raise as much as $1.3 billion to fund the vaccine. State Street portfolio manager Michael Arnone says Monday's rally may need a new source of momentum to be sustained.
In many ways, the market is looking beyond the poor economic data that we're now getting to suggest perhaps the lows are in terms of that data, and we're putting that behind us in the weeks and months to come. And I think the market's looking forward to potentially the fourth quarter in 2021.
With yesterday's rally, the S&P 500 is up 32% from its March 23rd low. It's still 12.7% below its record high reached on February 19th. John Tucker, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, John, thanks. In Asia, stocks posted their biggest gain in more than 3 weeks. We get the recap from Bloomberg's Juliet Sally in Singapore.
Good morning, Nathan and Karen. Australian and Japanese stocks closed at their highest levels in 10 weeks on the vaccine hopes, but SoftBank shares came under pressure in Tokyo as the company closed in on a deal to sell about $20 billion of its stock in T-Mobile. China's CSI 300 up 0.8%. South Korea's Kospi up more than 2%. Airline stocks in Seoul receiving a boost as plane travel creeps back with bubble corridors. In currencies, the Indonesian rupiah strengthened after the central bank there cut rates to 4.25%, while the Taiwan dollar snapped its longest losing streak in 6 weeks, and India's rupee snapped 3 days of losses as the dollar weakened amid the risk-on tone. In Singapore, Juliet Sali, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Juliet, thank you. And Europe stocks are trading lower this morning as ministers meet to discuss the EU's progress on rebuilding the region's economies. Let's get the very latest live with Bloomberg's Ewan Potts in London. Ewan, good morning.
Good morning, Karen and Nathan. A €500 billion package to help the European Union recover from the coronavirus pandemic. In a major step towards tighter integration, Germany's Angela Merkel says she will back the plan for more borrowing by the European Commission. The funds will go to the economies hardest hit by the coronavirus, mostly in the south, and repaid from the EU's budget. The plan, though, still needs the support of other sceptical rich countries in the north of Europe, but Germany's backing is a major move forward. Live in London, I'm Ewan Potts, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Ewan, thanks. Wall Street will be watching for congressional testimony from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Bloomberg's Michael McKee reports.
It's the very definition of an opening statement. Chairman Powell repeating the Fed's promise to use its full range of tools and leave the benchmark lending rate near zero until the economy is back on track. Beyond that, there's little discussion of future policy. Powell spends most of his prepared remarks for the Senate Banking Committee describing the 9 lending programs set up by the Fed to respond to the crisis. Whether they need to do more anytime soon and what that would be probably will have to wait for the question period, as might Powell's recent calls for Congress to do more. He will appear with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin at what will be the Senate's first quarterly CARES Act report. Mnuchin, too, repeating regular talking points in his prepared remarks, saying again that the administration expects economic conditions to improve in the third and fourth quarters. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Daybreak.
Michael, thank you. The Powell testimony will take place at 10 a.m. Wall Street time. You can catch it live on both Bloomberg Radio and television. Before that, we get earnings from Walmart, and Bloomberg's Larry Kofsky has a preview.
Analysts are expecting U.S. same-store sales to grow at a pace not seen in about 18 years, according to consensus metrics. That said, analysts are more cautious on profitability, with added costs related to delivery, labor, and cleaning pressuring Walmart's margins. Analysts are forecasting a profit of $1.13 a share on revenue of about $132.5 billion. Total same-store sales are seen rising 9.6% from a year ago. U.S. sales at its Walmart stores, excluding gas, are forecast to have risen 8.6%. Larry Kofsky, Bloomberg Daybreak.
Larry, thanks. Disney has lost its top streaming executive to an app that is exploding in popularity. Kevin Mayer is leaving to be CEO of TikTok, where users make and share short videos. Mayer will also be chief operating officer of ByteDance, the Chinese parent of TikTok. Mayer's departure isn't a shock. 3 months ago, he lost out in the race to become Disney's CEO. S&P futures lower about 8 points. Dow futures down 54. Straight ahead, the latest world and national news. This is Bloomberg. And it's 5:07 on Wall Street. Let's get more on the coronavirus response. What else is happening around the world? Here's Bloomberg's Michael Barr.
Good morning, Nathan. President Trump escalated his threats against the World Health Organization over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic, saying he would permanently cut U.S. funding if it does not make sweeping reforms. President Trump says he called on the WHO to demonstrate independence from China. The president spoke to reporters at the White House.
China paid $40 million last year, and we've been paying $450 million a year for many years. Somehow that doesn't work out too well. So I was thinking about bringing our $450 down to $40. And some people thought that was too much. So we're going to make a decision fairly soon.
New York City is in line to meet the 7 criteria requirements to possibly ease COVID-19 restrictions next month. Mayor Bill de Blasio.
First half of June is the first opportunity to relax anything. States talked about some of the vision of how that relaxing would look. I'll be filling in those blanks in the next week or two.
New York State is gradually continuing to reopen amid dropping hospitalizations and new cases. Governor Andrew Cuomo says Western New York, including Buffalo, will reopen today. He says 525 tracers have been identified and they are being prepared for the reopening. The governor also defended the requirement that all nursing home staff be tested 2 times a week.
No other state is requiring that the staff be tested twice a week. I understand that. I understand we have the most aggressive standard in the nation. But I also know that it is necessary.
He also encouraged all major sports teams to plan to reopen without fans. There were 106 new deaths in the state. New Jersey will allow batting cages, golf ranges, and some other outdoor recreational areas and businesses to restart as its virus metrics continue to improve. Governor Phil Murphy says the move is effective May 22nd.
While we are not nearly out of the woods yet, and thousands of our fellow New Jerseyans remain in the hospital battling COVID-19, as you can see, we are moving forward carefully, methodically, and responsibly.
Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont says hair salons and barbershops in his state won't reopen this week after all. The state reported 41 new COVID-19 deaths. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Nathan.
Okay, Michael, thanks. It's 5:09 on Wall Street. Time for the Bloomberg Sports Update. Good morning, John Stashauer.
All right, good morning, Nathan. As sports leagues have planned for their returns, there has been concern that each state would have different feelings about allowing it to happen. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says his state is all in.
I also have been encouraging major sports teams to plan reopenings without fans, but the games could be televised. New York State will help those major sports franchises to do just that. Hockey, basketball, baseball, football, whoever can reopen. We're a ready, willing, and able partner.
Cuomo said games being played would be in the best interest of the state and its people. The governors of California and Texas have also said they're ready to host games next month. One baseball player who wants to play, Bartolo Colon, turns 47 next week. Didn't pitch last season, but wants to come out of retirement and pitch again for the Mets. Colon pitched for 9 other teams, including the Yankees, but says he enjoyed his time the most while a Met. More details on what the NHL might look like upon its return. We had learned already about plans for an expanded Stanley Cup playoff field to 24 teams. Now Commissioner Gary Bettman is talking about Games being played in 8 or 9 locations. Las Vegas, mentioned heavily as a site for the NBA playoffs, wants in on the NHL too. Other cities in both the U.S. and Canada have expressed interest. There is, like the other sports, concerns about testing, but hockey has another concern. 17% of the players are not in the U.S. or Canada right now. They'd have to find a way to get back. John Stashauer, Bloomberg Sports. Nathan?
And John, NBC Sports says the return of live golf brought more than 2.3 million viewers across all its platforms, 16% higher than the final of the Dell Match Play last year. That exhibition was up against the official return of NASCAR. Last year's Match Play was part of a TV lineup filled with sports, including NCAA basketball, the March Madness, Major League Baseball, and a NASCAR race. S&P futures lower now by 8 points. Dow futures down 53. NASDAQ futures down 2. This is Bloomberg.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their businesses strategically. Yet the most competitive managers in the market know with the right partner and a flexible operating system, you can. SEI Investment Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President and Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
For the Jewish Communal Fund, Noel speaks.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistance systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Thanks to National Lottery players, the Help a Squaddy initiative are now providing mental health support online for veterans like Darren.
Thank you.
And £600 million of National Lottery funding is on its way to thousands more local projects in England and across the UK during these exceptional times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen.
This is an important update from the government about coronavirus. We all need to stay alert so we can control the virus and reduce the risk of infection. Staying alert means you must stay at home as much as possible. Work from home if you can. Limit contact with others. Keep your distance if you go out. And wash your hands regularly. Do not leave home if you or anyone in your household has symptoms. Stay alert. Control the virus. Save lives.
At the Halifax, we're all working together to be there for you.
Your money is safe in your account. However, people are using the coronavirus outbreak as an opportunity to try out new scams.
Rest assured that we will never call, text or email you asking you to move money to another account.
Neither will we ask you to share your login details.
For more information and for tips on how you can protect yourself against fraudsters, visit halifax.co.uk/security.
So however you need us, at the Halifax,
we're here to help.
Rishad Salamat.
Let's bring in Carsten Breitfeld, Faraday Futures CEO. What do you have in your technology that others do not? Do you have a USP, a unique selling point?
Yes, we have basically two groups or two sets of technology. One is, and I'm really proud that I can say this, we have the most advanced electric powertrain technology which you can get in the market when it comes to power density of the motors, for example, and more than that, the most advanced battery technology. Our battery packs 130 kilowatt hours in a car, which is good for a range up to 400 miles. It's a flooded cell technology, which allows you to charge extremely fast with 200 kilowatt and more. And that's a technology which is not available in the market right now. And the other area, and this is why this is the strength of Faraday, combining the traditional auto world with internet and consumer electronics world, we have a technology set we call IAI, which is Internet and Artificial Intelligence. This is a whole set of communication modules, high-speed communication modules, screens, very powerful in-car computers to have a complete internet and consumer electronics technology in the car.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. European stocks turned lower along with U.S. stock index futures as the risk-on mood that kicked off the week fades. Oil prices are rising for a fourth straight session. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. Right now, the S&P futures are down 9 points. Dow futures down 63. NASDAQ futures down about 7. The DAX in Germany is down 0.4%. 10-year Treasury up 7/30 seconds, yield 0.70%. The yield on the 2-year 0.17%. NYMEX crude oil is up 2.2% or 70 cents at $32.52 a barrel. COMEX gold is up 0.2% or $4 at $17.3840 an ounce. The euro 1.0950 against the dollar. British pound 1.2244 and the yen is at 107.47. Investors are growing more confident that the German economy will recover from its worst post-war slump in the second half of the year, with businesses resuming activity after the government lifted restrictions to contain the pandemic. At the same time, concerns about the present state of Europe's largest economy are running deep amid rising unemployment and surging bankruptcies. And we are watching today for a report on housing starts and building permits out at 8:30 Wall Street time. Home Depot and Walmart among companies scheduled to report earnings today.
dropped following yesterday's 3% rally on Wall Street.
Jerome Powell testifies before Congress this morning. He says the Fed will use its full range of tools to support the economy.
And President Trump threatens to cut off permanent funding to the World Health Organization.
Mayor de Blasio says New York City could reopen in June, plus Western New York State begins reopening today. I'm Michael Barr. More ahead.
I'm John Stashower in sports. Governor Cuomo campaigns for the return of sports in New York, and a former Met wants to come out of retirement and join his old team.
That's all straight ahead on Bloomberg Daybreak. On Bloomberg 1130 New York. Bloomberg 99.1 Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 106.1 Boston. Bloomberg 960 San Francisco. Sirius XM 119. And around the world on BloombergRadio.com and via the Bloomberg Business app.
Good morning, I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager. Bloomberg Daybreak is brought to you by Portfolio Analyst, powered by Interactive Brokers. Savvy investors use Portfolio Analyst to create a consolidated view of their finances and check the health of their complete financial portfolio. Sign up for free at portfolioanalyst.com.
And futures are lower this morning, 6:01 on Wall Street, and we check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. S&P futures down about 11 points, Dow futures down 83, NASDAQ futures down 14. The DAX in Germany is down about 0.7%, CAC in Paris down 1.1%, and the FTSE 100 is down 0.6%. Nikkei 225 in Japan jumped 1.5%, and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong up 1.9%. 10-year Treasury up 6/32, yield 0.70%. Yield on the 2-year 0.17%. NYMEX crude oil up 1% or 33 cents at $32.15 a barrel. COMEX gold up 0.2% or $3.30 at $17.3770 an ounce. The euro 1.0948 against the dollar, and the yen is at 107.55. At Home Depot, earnings crossing the Bloomberg first quarter comp sales were up 6.5%, and that was better than analysts were looking for. Nathan.
All right, thanks for that, Karen. U.S. stocks are coming off their best gain in almost 6 weeks on optimism over a possible vaccine to combat the coronavirus. We get more live from Bloomberg's John Tucker. Good morning, John.
Yeah, good morning, Nathan. The S&P 500 surged 3.2% after Moderna said its vaccine test yielded signs it can create an immune system response in the body. We spoke with the CEO of the company, Stefan Bonsel.
We are finalizing the protocol for the phase 3, which is the last clinical study before approval, which we are hoping to start in July.
Moderna plans to raise as much $1.3 billion to fund the vaccine. State Street portfolio manager Michael Arnone says Monday's rally may need a new source of momentum to be sustained.
If we can find a health solution, this is important in the fact that it will lead to a much quicker and stronger recovery. And I think investors and market participants are reflecting that in cyclical shares. This is encouraging, and we'll need to see follow-through.
With yesterday's rally, the S&P 500 is up 32% from its March 23rd low. It's still 12.7% below its record high that was reached on February 19th. John Tucker, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, John, thanks. In Asia, stocks posted their biggest gain in more than 3 weeks. We get the recap from Bloomberg's Juliette Sally in Singapore.
Good morning, Nathan and Karen. Australian and Japanese stocks closed at their highest levels in 10 weeks on the vaccine hopes, but SoftBank shares came under pressure in Tokyo as the company closed in on a deal to sell about $20 billion of its stock in T-Mobile. China's CSI 300 up 0.8%, South Korea's Kospi up more than 2%, airline stocks in Seoul receiving a boost as plane travel creeps back with bubble corridors. In currencies, the Indonesian rupiah strengthened after the central bank there cut rates to 4.25%, while the Taiwan dollar snapped its longest losing streak in 6 weeks, and India's rupee snapped 3 days of losses as the dollar weakened amid the risk-on tone. In Singapore, Juliette Sally, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Juliette, thank you. In Europe, stocks are trading lower this morning as ministers meet to discuss the EU's progress on rebuilding the region's economies. Let's get the very latest live with Bloomberg's Ewan Potts in London. Ewan, good morning.
Good morning, Karen and Nathan. A €500 billion package to help the European Union recover from the coronavirus pandemic. In a major step towards tighter integration, Germany's Angela Merkel says she will back the plan for more borrowing by the European Commission. The funds will go to the economies hardest hit by the coronavirus, mostly in the south, and repaid from the EU's budget. The plan, though, still needs the support of other sceptical rich countries in the north of Europe, but Germany's backing is a major move forward. Live in London, I'm Ewan Potts. Bloomberg Daybreak.
Thanks, Ewan. Wall Street will be watching for congressional testimony from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Bloomberg's Michael McKee reports.
It's the very definition of an opening statement. Chairman Powell repeating the Fed's promise to use its full range of tools and leave the benchmark lending rate near zero until the economy is back on track. Beyond that, there's little discussion of future policy. Powell spends most of his prepared remarks for the Senate Banking Committee describing the 9 lending programs set up by the Fed to respond to the crisis. Whether they need to do more anytime soon and what that would be probably will have to wait for the question period, as might Powell's recent calls for Congress to do more. He will appear with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin at what will be the Senate's first quarterly CARES Act report. Mnuchin, too, repeating regular talking points in his prepared remarks, saying again that the administration expects economic conditions to improve in the third and fourth quarters. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Michael, thank you. The Powell testimony will take place at 10 a.m. Wall Street time. You can catch that live on both Bloomberg Radio and television. And before that, we get earnings from Walmart, and Bloomberg's Larry Kofsky has a preview.
Analysts are expecting U.S. same-store to grow at a pace not seen in about 18 years, according to consensus metrics. That said, analysts are more cautious on profitability, with added costs related to delivery, labor, and cleaning pressuring Walmart's margins. Analysts are forecasting a profit of $1.13 a share on revenue of about $132.5 billion. Total same-store sales are seen rising 9.6% from a year ago. U.S. sales at its Walmart stores, excluding gas, are forecast to have risen 8.6%. Larry Kopp. Bloomberg Daybreak.
All right, Larry, thank you. Ahead of that, Walmart shares up 1% in early trading. Again, Home Depot reporting earnings. First quarter comp sales beating analyst estimates. It did suspend its outlook for the year. And futures this morning are lower. Straight ahead, we have the latest world and national news. And this is Bloomberg.
Okay, Karen, thanks a lot. It's 6:07 on Wall Street, and let's get more on what else is happening around the world. Here's Bloomberg's Michael Barr.
Thank you very much, Nathan. President Trump escalated his threats against the World Health Organization over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic, saying he would permanently cut U.S. funding if it does not make sweeping reforms. President Trump says he called the WHO to demonstrate independence from China. The president spoke to reporters at the White House.
China paid $40 million last year, and we've been paying $450 million a year for many years. Somehow that doesn't work out too well. So I was thinking about bringing our $450 down to $40. And some people thought that was too much. So we're going to make a decision fairly soon.
New York City is in line to meet the 7 criteria requirements to possibly ease COVID-19 restrictions next month. Mayor Bill de Blasio.
First half of June is the first opportunity to relax anything. States talked about some of the vision of how that relaxing would look. I'll be filling in those blanks in the next week or two.
New York State is gradually continuing to reopen amid dropping hospitalizations and new cases. Governor Andrew Cuomo says Western New York, including Buffalo, will reopen today. He says 525 tracers have been identified, and they are being prepared for the reopening. The governor also defended the requirement that all nursing home staff be tested 2 times a week.
No other state is requiring that the staff be tested twice a week. I understand that. I understand we have the most aggressive standard in the nation. But I also know that it is necessary.
There were 106 new deaths in the state. New Jersey will allow batting cages, golf ranges, and some other outdoor recreational areas and businesses to restart as its virus metrics continue to improve. Governor Phil Murphy says the move is effective May 22nd.
While we are not nearly out of the woods yet, and thousands of our fellow New Jerseyans remain in the hospital battling COVID-19, as you can see, we are moving forward carefully, methodically, and responsibly.
Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont says hair salons and barbershops in his state won't reopen this week after all. The state reported 41 new COVID-19 deaths. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Nathan.
Thank you, Michael. It's 6:09 on Wall Street. Time again for the Bloomberg Sports Update with John Stashower.
Nathan, as sports leagues have planned for their returns, there's been some concerns that each state would have a different feeling about it, allowing it to happen. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says his state is all in.
Have been encouraging major sports teams to plan reopenings without fans, but the games could be televised. New York State will help those major sports franchises to do just that. Hockey, basketball, baseball, football, whoever can reopen. We're a ready, willing, and able partner.
Governors of California and Texas have also said they're ready to host games next month. One baseball player who wants to play, Bartolo Colon, turns 47 next week. Didn't pitch last season, but wants to come out of retirement and pitch again for the Mets. Colon pitched for 9 other teams, including the Yankees, but says he enjoyed his time the most while a Met. More details on what the NHL might look like upon its return. We had already learned about plans for an expanded Stanley Cup playoff field of 24 teams. Now Commissioner Gary Bettman talking about games being played in 8 or 9 locations. Las Vegas, mentioned heavily as a site for the NBA playoffs, wants in on the NHL too. Other cities in both the U.S. and Canada have expressed interest. Devils goalie Corey Schneider wonders whether it's worth the risk for a player on a team like the last-place Devils to come back and play meaningless regular season games. There is concern that 17% of NHL players are not in the U.S. or Canada right now, and they have to find a way to get back. John Stashower, Bloomberg Sports. Nathan.
Thank you, John. And NBC Sports says the return of live golf brought more than 2.3 million viewers to its platforms. NBC says that was 16% higher than the final of the Dell Match Play last year. The exhibition was up against the official return of NASCAR. Last year's Match Play was part of a TV lineup filled with sports, including NCAA's basketball tournament, Major League Baseball, and a NASCAR race. S&P futures lower by 13 points now. Futures down 121. NASDAQ futures a loss of 21 points. You're listening to Bloomberg Daybreak.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA. Member FDIC.
Jenny Liss, Jewish.
A half-price dream holiday. Wouldn't want to miss that. A takeaway for free. Wouldn't want to miss that. And 30 gigs data for just £10 a month on Smarty Mobile. You definitely don't want to miss that. Our Smarty SIM comes packed with 30 gigs of data and unlimited calls and texts for just £10 a month on a 1-month plan. That's why Smarty won Best Value SIM-only network in the U-Switch Mobile Awards 2020. Don't miss out. Search Smarty Mobile. Smarty. Simple, honest mobile. Smarty.co.uk.
Life isn't always easy at the moment. We can feel frustrated, miss loved ones, or get anxious. But there are simple things we can all do to look after our mental well-being at this time. Every Mind Matters will get you started with personalised tips and advice from the NHS. Whether it's dealing with stress, techniques to help you relax, or simple tips for better sleep, we'll help you find what's right for you. Search Every Mind Matters today.
Picture in your mind a stylish Audi with striking LED headlights, sporty alloy wheels, and some of our most advanced features, including a 10-inch digital cockpit and smart assistant systems like lane departure warning. Picture what that Audi looks like. Now think smaller. The Audi A1. It's not a small car, it's a small Audi. Visit audi.co.uk. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Pauline. Love may be blind, but it has a new smell.
Pauline, the new fragrance from Euro Millions winner Pauline Hinchcliffe.
Tonight's Euro Millions jackpot is a massive £15 million. That's dream come true money. Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Your numbers make amazing happen. Play online or on the app. Estimated jackpot. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Conversations from Bloomberg Television. Here's Rishad Salamat.
Let's move it along. Have a look at the hotel industry, because it, of course, has been ravaged by the global pandemic. Travel, of course, shut down globally. And Marriott International seeing its revenue per available room, or RevPAR, falling 90% last month. But it says there are signs Greater China is starting to bounce back. Our next guest was just promoted to oversee the company's international business outside of North America, and joining us exclusively now is Marriott International Group President Craig Smith. Thank you so much for joining us, Craig. How bad is it?
It's been tough. I've been in the industry 32 years, and this has been the toughest time period. You can see more gray hair since the last time we spoke. But the good news is we're starting to see glimmers of hope, especially in China, South Korea, and also in Australia. And so that's encouraging for us to feel like we're starting to come out of the storm.
So you are seeing some green shoots, though, Craig, if I'm not mistaken. I just mentioned China. Tell us a little bit about that story and other places as well where you perhaps are having a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Yeah, China, the numbers are starting to pick up. And so last month we finished at around 30% occupancy. We've seen good numbers, especially over the May 1st holiday. We've had a lot of travel, places like Hainan, which is kind of the Hawaii of China, so to speak.
Hear more interviews like this one on Bloomberg Television, streaming live on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg mobile app, or check your local cable listings. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
And I'm Karen Moscow. This update brought to you by Stevens Institute of Technology. Be a leader in the digital transformation of any business sector with an online master's degree or graduate certificate in information systems. Visit stevens.edu/infosystems. And we continue to watch shares of Home Depot this morning down 2.8% in early trading. First quarter profit missing analyst estimates, and it suspended its outlook for the year due to uncertainty surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. It also says limited store traffic had an impact on sales. Still, first quarter comp sales beat analyst estimates. European stocks are moving lower this morning, so are U.S. stock index futures. We check the markets every 15 minutes throughout the trading day on Bloomberg. Futures are down about 14 points. Dow futures down 119. NASDAQ futures down 23. The DAX in Germany is down 8 0.2%. 10-year Treasury up 5/32. Yield 0.70%. The yield on the 2-year 0.17%. NYMEX crude oil is up 1% or 33 cents at $32.15 a barrel. COMEX gold is up 0.2% or $3.10 at $17.37.50 an ounce. Michael Barr with more on what's going on around the world. Michael.
Thank you, Karen. President Donald Trump said he is taking hydroxychloroquine, the anti-malaria drug that he's promoted as a treatment to combat coronavirus infection, despite government warnings that it can cause serious side effects. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that she would rather President Trump not be taking something that has not been approved by scientists. President Trump says he is surprised by Attorney General William Barr's declaration that he sees no cause for a criminal investigation into former President Barack Obama, claiming he is the victim of a double standard. The president has suggested, without evidence, that Obama and Biden broke the law during the Russia investigation. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts from more than 120 countries. I'm Michael Barr. This is Bloomberg. Nathan.
Okay, Michael, thank you. It is 6:19 on Wall Street, live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studios. This is Bloomberg Daybreak, and we're getting an eye on retail earnings this morning, including Walmart, one of the essential businesses during the pandemic. Later this hour, we're going to find out how that's paid off for investors when the retail giant reports its first quarter earnings. And here with the preview is Jennifer Bartasha, senior analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. Nice to talk with you this morning, Jennifer. I guess it wouldn't be too much of a surprise if we see a top-line number that's a blowout, would we?
No, good morning. No, there will be no surprise that the top line will be very, very strong for Walmart this quarter. They're looking at potential same-store sales that are the highest in almost 2 decades. And that's really driven by the consumers stocking up ahead of COVID and then really needing to replenish those important supplies as they've been confined at home.
Well, that raises the question of how much of a difference we're going to see between sales of those essential grocery-like items and more discretionary purchases that you might not think would have been top of mind for consumers during this time.
Yes, Walmart is going to have very, very strong sales when it comes to food, consumables, household essentials, and a